Good morning and happy Trajectory Tuesday. How is everybody doing out there? What is present for you in terms of your trajectory? Like, where is your trajectory? What does trajectory even mean? And where do you want it to be headed? So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a kindred spirit in desiring more money in less time with more magic. And your showing upness is present for me this morning. And remember, we're here to launch you into your day, to create more ecosystem mergers, more speaking engagements, more sales meetings, more disposable income, and higher levels of contribution. Fernando, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Callaghy. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Sitting in a space of massive gratitude, clear that there's much zone action steps being defined, folks, as the most efficient action steps we can take to get us from where we are to the outcomes we want. I am present to opportunity in the space of zone action for all of us. And like, quick check-in. What are your zone action steps for today on this Trajectory Tuesday? What three things, let's start with this. What one thing can you do today to create the most massive acceleration in your business? And the thing that you believe, like, it's not called Oprah. Like, that's not what we're talking about. That's not going to happen today. What is it today that's a pivotal, critical dynamic that you could take zone action on, like efficient action step to make something happen? But be present to that. For many of us, we don't take those action steps for a very specific reason, which I'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. Like, what's the reason we don't take zone action? Like, I'm very present to that reality. So, Fernando, what say you?
What say me, Mr. Callaghy, is Kay and Shai shared a beautiful quote with me yesterday as we had our 10 by 10 call by Dr. Martin Luther King that landed so, well in my heart, because in my experience, the greatest obstacle in the unblinding of our formula, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how it, supports other people's money, time, and magic is like the belief that it works. Then there's like the barrier of understanding how it works. And then once that is overcome, it's like frictionless creation because it does work. We know what we're doing, and it's worked for you. So the quote was this. It says, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. And I want you to drive for a second. I'm just very clear that Basecamp first step is hold your real raw open. And I don't want to steer you on like the questions that we've been getting asked. If you can just touch on slightly as you go into self-mastery, which I love, like the first step is real raw open. And for people that are looking for like, what's the syntax? How do I say it? Why should I do it? I just want to really drive that real raw open is the first step.
Yeah. So what I would suggest at this juncture overall is if folks are asking, why, how, I would say watch the module from Friday. And we're going to be condensing that down even shorter, but don't wait. The idea with that is how do we make that hour and a half into an hour? And then how do we make that hour and a half into a 10-minute animated video? Like using animation and dynamics and cool graphics. And like, that's coming. So Basecamp is this. What I don't want to speak into too consistently is the idea, and I made this mistake at Callaghy Law for a long time. And when you have a deep love for people, Fernando, as you do, and I want to talk to you, and then I want to talk to simultaneously everybody else, but I am talking to you, Fernando, right?
Listen.
So I made the mistake for many years, and there's an attorney, we'll call him Joe. There were two female attorneys, we'll call them Mary and Sue. And they worked for me. And they were, in a space of immense knowingness, massive ego. And we would have conversations about the formula 10 years ago, and they would make fun of me behind my back. Not mad as much, but, Mary and Sue. And they would laugh and they would joke. And it was like, it would come to me, and then I'd have some confront conversations, and like cowards, they would no, I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. Like, and just all these things, right? And so egolessly, these two people had immense desire for leadership and acceleration. And they wanted more money and less time with more magic. And I would say, like, this is how to do it. It's ecosystem merging, it's public speaking, it's understand the formula, Hello-DS influence, it's self-mastery. And they would like so fight it and battle it out of knowingness and ego. And my question would always be like, but like, if not this, then what? Right? And so I'll fast forward. Eventually, I was on the verge of firing each of them, and they left before they got fired. And to this day, they don't have any of the things they want. They don't have the money, they don't have the time, and they don't have the magic. And I hold no joy in that. I hold sadness. I also hold sadness, though, for the amount of time I wasted because I saw their talent. They had real talent. They had influence mastery capability because they were pretty good at like attacking and criticizing and being cynical about things. They were really good critics, but there was no validity to the criticism, and they didn't get what they wanted. Now, this other gentleman, again, we'll call him Joe, the gentleman. Joe was involved in working on some extraordinary things inside the firm, and Joe ended up fighting so hard against other people, including Michael Smikin in the firm, like fighting against him, trying to undermine him, derail him, make him look bad, say he was ego-driven, like using all the weaponized dynamics of language of personal development, language of people and business and manipulation, right? And it ended up with that Joe wasn't there anymore. And are you ready for this, Fernando and everybody? To demonstrate like where things were, the day we received a $27 million jury verdict was the day Joe quit after it happened. Because Joe had been taken off that team. And it was clear to me that the reason Joe stayed until then was because he hoped that we would lose. Literally, I believe he hoped we would lose, which was just an extraordinarily, and he knew right versus wrong, good versus evil, everything at stake. But that's how large somebody's ego can be. And so what I'm speaking into, very simply, is the clarity not to chase people. And we fall in love with going from hello to yes. And when we fall in love with going from hello to yes, and we love people, it can lead to us having ineffective boundaries and pursuing relationships with the wrong people. Don't chase, key category, right? Have non-attachment. Those are key dynamics, because at the end of the day, all we're talking about is how do you accelerate your business the most efficiently that you can. That's all we're talking about. And if people say they are like, no, like, I don't know about this whole thing. And, like it feels too energized. Like those are some of the same criticisms I heard about some of the business programs, personal development programs, both. I mean, I would go to legal seminars on how to develop business, and I would hear people say the same things. Jerry Spence, who wrote How to Argue Win Every Time, there's a movie made about one of his most famous cases. And when I went to hear Jerry Spence speak, one of the most persuasive attorneys of all time, wrote one of the most persuasive books, series of books on persuasion. They had a huge, I don't say it enough, they had a huge impact on me. How to Argue Win Every Time was a core, like, art of storytelling work. It talked about the processes of time blocking. He didn't say time blocking, but of taking time to go deeper into story and, like all those things. Truly remarkable. And I remember being in a seminar in California and me coming out of the room feeling so utterly inspired, so clear, so helped by his words, so honored when he signed my book. This was in 1997, right around the same time I talked about reading Awaken the Giant Within. In fact, It was on the very trip out there that I read Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins and saw Jerry Spence speak. So all these things were happening simultaneously. And I remember being in the room, and Jerry Spence offered a program at his ranch in Wyoming. He lives in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And his program involved attorneys working on his farm in the morning and then going through seminars during the day to help argue, win, create, be in their heart, all these things, right? Getting back, he called it being, grounded and like loving and, inspired a higher level. I don't remember the words, but the concepts were to get in your heart, to be fully present, to love people. And I remember hearing people joke about it. So people are in that room, Jerry Spence is up front, Jerry Spence is on television, movie made about him. And I remember hearing people in the room go, this is ridiculous. What is he trying to like rip us off and have us come work on his farm and all these silly things? And so Fernando, brother, and for everybody here, right? One, there will be some profit in your own townness. Fernando, you have an older brother. No matter what you tell your older brother from this day for the rest of your life, you're still the younger brother. And you get the acknowledgement, you get the love. And I don't even know the dynamic, but I'm hallucinating that there's some barrier that would exist between like what you say as younger brother to how it's received by older brother, some dynamic. Not making him right or wrong, but a dynamic, true or false?
True.
Yeah, that's going to exist with your pre-existing relationships. It existed in mine. I wrote letters to my friends coming back from that Jerry Spence seminar, San Diego, California, reading Awaken the Giant Within, tears in my eyes, wrote to my best friends. One of those people I spoke to 2 nights ago, they laughed at me behind my back. Laughed at me. And that person led a 2-decade stretch when my life was imperfect, right? I got divorced. That wasn't perfect. A lot of pain, right? So I'm not saying everything was perfect, but the place that my life arrived at, if you compare it to my dream and compare his life to his dream, like we're seismically, exponentially different. Mine was 1,000 times, is 1,000 times more alignment with what I hoped for and dreamed about than his. Like I was there. Like we had beers together at 17 years old in the woods after like successful high school football, seasons and slept over each other's houses. And like I was there. We talked about our life, our dreams. We did during our 20s. We did into our 30s. And as he was watching this happen, at some point he said to me, at like 2:00 in the morning, he said, he goes, I missed a step along the way. And we were like 30. He's like, I missed a step. I'm like, dude, you're 30 years old. What are you talking about? He goes, no. It's too late for me. He's like, I don't even like coming into the town of Emerson because when everybody sees you, like we started the same. He's like, when everybody sees you, they just treat you differently. I feel like I'm nobody. I feel like I'm nothing. I had tears pouring down my face as I heard this from my friend who was brilliant, handsome, charismatic, energized, emotionally intelligent. And he literally made up this lie. And he never got out of it. He was my best friend. Like best friend. Like people say best friend. Like my best friend. So, and my influence mastery is off the charts. My best friend, I couldn't bring along the journey. And I wanted to, desperately. So if our outcome is to convince everybody, and I'm telling you, I think my influence skills are remarkable and I couldn't bring my best friend along, and I tried for years. I tried for like a decade and a half and got a lot of pain and hurt for it, for trying to pull him along, rescue him, carry him. And he hurt me immensely with things that he did. So simply put, from my heart to yours, don't chase, love people, and then show them. Develop new relationships. I met Adam Gapino less than a year ago. Look what we're doing together. I met Rob Gill 2 years ago. Tom Filatico, Chief Accountability Officer, Calgary Law. I've known him for 40 years. So I have longevity people, Bob Perry, is coming back and doing work at Caligula Law, it looks like. Bob I've known for 16 years. People at Caligula working there for 20 years. Like, some people are there a long time, some people are there forever, and some people are new, right? But we're not going to bring everybody with us. And if you watch the YouTube video on how to create a movement, sometimes it's that first answer, which for this version of things, Rob Gill forever will be, right? And then sometimes then there's like a second, third, fourth, fifth answer. And that's where, like, Fernando, you are, right? And thank you, and you're incredible. And then all of a sudden it's like more. But there's still people on the sideline until it tips to a point where it's kind of hard to avoid. But even look at Oprah. People don't like Oprah. Lots of people. Go Google, like, Oprah's a jerk, and you'll find a zillion things. It's like just what is. Before we drop into Real Raw Base Camp, for 30 seconds, Fernando, what's on your heart and mind? Like, what's your response to this?
I'm integrating. Staying in my heart is it does show up painful when people don't see, and I struggle with, like, setting my boundaries and wanting not to chase versus, like, I just love all people, and it hurts me when I've never enjoyed understanding things more than people. I've always felt misunderstood because of it. I've always felt outcasted because of it. I've always felt kind of lonely because of it. Mm-hmm. And, like, there's this deep desire for other people not to feel that way. And it keeps me there because in my chasing, it takes me longer to attract the right people.
Yeah. So, brother, my sophomore year at Columbia, let this land in your leadership for everybody. My sophomore year at Columbia, because the seniors wanted to, not all of them, but some of them, got cut from the baseball team when I was a freshman and I started varsity. Okay? I came and I worked like nobody worked harder than me. That's a fact. Nobody worked harder than me. Nobody was in the weight room more. Nobody was in the batting cage more. Like, that was an objective fact accepted by all. Despite that reality, a number of seniors, when I came in as a freshman, along with a couple of other freshmen, got cut. And they were still in the lodging where we lived, right? It was fraternity house. I didn't pledge. I would never pledge. We didn't have any pledging. It was like, if you're on the baseball team, you're in the fraternity house. So didn't do a single pledging thing. And that's important for me historically that's noted, right? As it's important to me to know that I've never done a drug in my life. I've never smoked pot, and I don't hold judgment, right? I've never done any narcotic substance in my entire life. So number two. Number three, those guys got cut from the team and they still lived in the fraternity house, and they did not like me. And I was quiet. I didn't take up space. I took up space because I took up space in the field, but I said, like, no words, right? I was quiet. I was respectful. I was like, thank you. How are you? Like, I was doing my thing, right? Despite that reality, there was immense negative energy that was rooted in their own ego. And they were hurt. Like, they wanted to play college baseball too. And they got cut, like, going into their senior year or their junior year. It's really hard and painful. So when I came back as a sophomore and I was living in this house, there was a party, an altercation happened with some of their friends and my friends, and their friends were really wrong. Like, I was there. Like, two of their friends jumped. Like, one of the seniors' football friends jumped my friend from Emerson, and then my friend from Emerson literally knocked the guy out, who was like 40 pounds heavier than my friend. So my friend knocked the guy out, right? And so, like, that led to, like, them being able to, like, make up a story, ostracize me even more, and, like, I just didn't want to deal with it. And I ended up having lunch in my car by myself for most of my sophomore year at Columbia University, my second semester, because I just didn't want to deal with it. However, none of that affected my leadership. You're like, what? Like, you were hiding. No, I was, like, gathering. And in that time, like, it wasn't time for my leadership to ascend where it was, how it would be. Yet the very next season, as a junior, I was immensely in leadership. My senior year, I was unanimously selected captain by every single player on the team, coach telling me that had never happened before, to his knowledge, at Columbia, and certainly not in his tenure. And he'd been there for more than a decade. So my point is, chase no one. You know your truth. I knew my truth. They were drinking, taking drugs. They weren't focused. I was not. I was not. I would not have a sip of alcohol during the baseball season. I was committed. I was in the gym first. I was ready. Like, I was prepared. I was stronger in most exercises than anybody else on the baseball team, including guys that outweighed me by 40 pounds. And so my reality was I wasn't going to make them wrong, but I wasn't going to live in that context. And it was, to me, horrific. From where I had come from, my belief structure is you didn't do those things if you're committed to your team and your teammates. Coming from Emerson High School, Coach Stan Woods, who you heard here a week ago, that's not what you did. So like I didn't have enough leverage to change the culture, but I did my junior year. And if you Google Sean Callaghy, Columbia University baseball, in case you're thinking this is made up, you will see an article from the Columbia Spectator in my senior year where it talks about me and my co-captain, Chris Zander, who is, I love him to no end. I was best man in his wedding. And you'll hear us talk about positive leadership change. And you're level 5 listening. If you ever read that article and want to, you will see underneath, without saying all the things, the dynamics that was truly at play. So point, chase no one, know your truth. And we're not doing anything weird here. We're building business. The 10 by 10 is ecosystem partnership. People can make it into anything they want to. Know your truth. And I think we are taking way too much time in the space of trying to talk about people who are not getting the money, time, and magic they want, who have no authority to be giving an opinion, because I will debate them in any single way publicly. And I'll lovingly eviscerate them in their ridiculousness. So let's simply default to, hey, let's put money down and happily come on. And if I win, they come in your 10 by 10. If I lose, I'll put money for charity for them and watch them scurry. They put money into the charity also because they win if they come in 10 by 10. So let's put that out there and see who says yes. So it was the same dynamic as when I was at Columbia. Let them hide in corners. Let them, have their own pain and love them. But don't chase them. Because the result in the stories I could tell from the people I chased, from things that occurred in every facet of my life, personal relationships, friendships, business relationships, when you chase, you get crushed. Not only your time, but your energy. And it could be your heart, and it could be your money, because I've experienced all those things. So Fernando, love people unconditionally with what?
Love and with boundaries and integrity.
With boundaries and integrity. Final, Real Raw is base camp. Scotomas all over the place. I want to acknowledge Erica for doing a beautiful job. And remember, beautiful job means rising in mastery. Wonderful group of people. If you're on that, thank you. For Erica's own economic gains, I think there could have been a heavier integration of professionals, lawyers, accountants, financial people, insurance sales people, property and casualty insurance people, counselors. That was present. And beautiful job. Erica will ever flag in the ground be the person that created the first Real Raw Open in the history of Unblinded. So Erica, thank you. I am present to that reality. I am present to your heart. I'm present to your desire for growth and mastery. And again, you love people unconditionally with boundaries. Love people unconditionally with boundaries. I hear your desire for breakthroughs. I hear your desire for helping people that are depressed and suicidal. That is a beautiful and incredible thing. Just make sure you're putting your oxygen mask on first, because unless you have your oxygen mask on with flowing oxygen, you're not going to be able to help anybody. Okay? Fernando, any final things you want me to answer for today in terms of base camps and things?
Nothing to answer for today. I want to give a shout out to Mary from Ohio, Realtor, who's been communicating with our Unblinded team, and Tiffany Armstrong. Happy to have you here on the Morning Huddle. And my question to you, Mary, is when is your Real Raw Open? Back to you, Sean.
Yeah. Real Raw Open equals base camps, Scotomas. Just make sure you're assembling the right group for you, right? Because if not, then it's for us, and don't do it for us. It's got to be the right group for you, the people that can be ecosystem partners for you, not just because they like you, not just because you believe in the same book written by, you know, an author or a movie, but because there is a relevance to how you come together to build business. Have a beautiful and incredible Trajectory Tuesday. Truly, I love you unconditionally with boundaries and integrity. Have a beautiful day. Thanks.